I hate having to do videos like this where I have a nice, fun, relaxing review as thing set up and ready to go, and then something happens and I have to shift gears to some cluck. This is a little early in the video, can't quite swear yet. That upends the apple cart, flips the table, what have you, in something that is important to me. And it's also important to subject matter of this channel. I'm intending to, at some point, restart Nintendo Power Retrospectives here. And part of the reason why I just started Nintendo Power Retrospectives, and part of the reason why I considered, when I put the show on hold for a bit, picking up a different magazine in the interim, and also why I still do the what else is going on in the industry and discussing issues of Next Gen magazine on my blog, is game journalism is important to me. It matters to me, not just in a context of I wanted to be a game journalist, which I did, and to a certain degree, there's a part of me that still does. But over the past decade or more, honestly more than a decade, I have seen the game industry, or the game journalism industry, get repeatedly gutted over and over and over again by various corporate entities attempting to extract profit from it at the cost of the people who cover games, who engage in criticism of games, and who also engage in like investigative journalism on how the industry is made. One of my earliest blog posts on my blog was a book review of a book called Fire in the Valley, Soul of a New Machine, rather. And I discussed in context of that book the then new EA spouse allegations that had come out at that time, discussing crunch and overwork practices in the game industry. And I brought them up in context of this book because I was reading it and seeing profiled their similarly abusive work practices, and how that this keeps happening, and not in the sense of, oh, it's nothing will change, but more in the sense of this is distressingly untenable and unsustainable, is not good for the health of an industry, in the health of a business, in the health of the development of a technology, and that it does need to change. And people have been ringing these warning bells for at that point decades, because Soul of a New Machine was written in the 70s, 80s, and EA Spouse was the 2010s, and that we need to keep calling these warning bells, and something needs to change. And journalists, Soul of a New Machine was written by a journalist, and journalists in the game industry covered EA Spouse, need to be the ones to speak truth to power and hold feet to the fire regarding abusive industry practices. We also need to be the ones who can engage in game criticism in the proper sense of the term, not just the sense of, oh, this game's only 80 hours. This game doesn't have enough gameplay. It's only 40 hours long. Any of that nonsense, which was a refrain that happened a lot in the comment sections, and social media was less of a thing, so it was more the message boards of various game sites back in the 2000s and even the 90s, as if total amount of game time is what makes a game good or bad, and somehow adding another 20 hours makes a game better. It's not the case. So with all of that in mind, so again, going through all of that, and again, having good quality game criticism out there, being written, recorded on podcasts or on video, is important. And I say bring it all together because with the context that I am recording this video on the first week of May, not first full week, but the week of, well, May 1st of International Workers' Day, and on this week, Giant Bomb and Polygon were effectively gutted. The members of the I need to get the exact name of the union correct. So give me just a minute here. Vox Media Union. The members of the Polygon writer staff who were a member of the Vox Media Union were in the process of doing union negotiations for the new contract at the time that Vox sold Polygon to Valnet, a company which I want to use the word alleged here because they're currently in the process of suing someone who is making this allegation, and making the allegation with receipts, for let's just call them media. I wouldn't say sweatshop, but media. Extruded website content machine, Valnet, has been Vox sold Polygon to Valnet, to extruded content machine Valnet, and Valnet promptly fired all of the union staff of Polygon. I believe, actually, correction, this was on May Day, on International Workers' Day, which, boy, somebody wasn't thinking about, either somebody did not give a crap about the optics. 7 minutes in, I can cuss now. Nope, somebody didn't give a fuck about the optics at Valnet. A little bit related to that as well, Giant Bomb, which a while back, a few years ago, honestly, had gotten purchased by Fandom after, from Red Ventures, who in turn had purchased it from CBS Interactive, who in turn had gotten it from Whiskey Media when kind of Whiskey Media basically broke up. They brought in a memorandum of some variety to the Giant Bomb staff with the brand protection guidelines for saying what you could not do on the air in terms of like cussing or that sort of thing. And I'm like, which, first off, I've been following Giant Bomb from the beginning, back to before Giant Bomb had the name Giant Bomb. It was called Arrow Pointing Down, and it was just like Jeff Gersman and Ryan Davis, R.I.P. Ryan Davis, and then it became Giant Bomb. Then it became part of which became part of the Whiskey Media family for a variety of reasons. Just they knew some of the people who were involved with Whiskey Media. The wiki tech that they were doing was something they wanted to have working with their site. Also, to a certain degree, I think they joked about in the podcast, is like having a sign where somebody's meeting you at the airport. It's better at an airport post 9/11 to have a sign saying Whiskey Media than it is to hold up a sign saying Giant Bomb. The latter one doesn't play well at airports these days. These days now, these days then. Honestly, these days ever. So with that in mind, and that was formed after, Jeff Gersman got sacked following got infamously sacked following a review of the first Kane and Lynch game, a negative review. Termination was immortalized in a Penny Arcade strip. I'll see if I can find that and put a link in the show notes for that. So with that happened, a massive number of other significant GameSpot staff. I have to be careful to pronounce that because otherwise I end up saying the name of the crappy video game store. Left. Ryan Davis, Stavaro, Brad Shoemaker, Vinny Caravella. I think it's around this point that also Greg Kasavin went off to starts to be working at Supergiant Games, which arguably Jeff Gerstmann getting fired led to us having Hades. So like it's one of those moments that um that James Burke would end up talking about in episode of Connections in terms of its weird locus in history. And with all of that, so I following Giant Bomb, but also again, being I value good game journalism, also was paid attention to Polygon. I paid attention to Waypoint when Austin Walker went from Giant Bomb to Vice to start that and put together that writing team. Brought Patrick Klepek from Giant Bomb with him, and I'd come to value and appreciate Patrick Klepek's chops as a journalist. He was one of the ones who broke the news story about the layoffs of the founders of wow, one of those things where the name just falling in my head. Game studio that created Call of Duty and particularly called Infinity Ward. The founders of Infinity Ward, when they were laid off. The story broke because of messages that Patrick Klepek got, and he did the checking and did all the journalism. He did the journalism to confirm and verify, and put together a news story covering that. So Patrick Klepek, great journalist, and similar strong work pieces of journalistic writing was being done at Polygon. Honestly, there was a chunk of me that thought when Waypoint pulled the ripcord, or let's say, when Waypoint pulled the ripcord with the issues that Vice is having, financial issues of Vice, there was a chunk of that. I wonder if they go to like Polygon, or end up like contributing to Polygon, because while Patrick's been doing other forms of games writing and stuff with regards to Vice, like I've always thought of him as Scoops, and I thought that was going to be where this was going to go. There, because Polygon was like, when it came to okay, where's the good game journalism happening these days? One of the places where this is coming from is Polygon. Was Polygon, and now no longer. I mean, not just like also current game journalism, most like investigative pieces. They did there was an oral history of Final Fantasy VII that was on Polygon. It was a really solid site, and lots of stuff been getting shut down recently, but things seem to be going a bit more on the upswing with the revival potentially of Game Informer, independent of GameStop as a corporation. But then this happened. Going back to the Giant Bomb thing, it's like Giant Bomb has always kind of flown by their own wings and been a entity that has been okay with crude, crass humor, but not mean-spirited and hurtful in the Radio Shock Jock way. It's a site where they will do jokes about Knife vs. Bat, and they'll have some occasional lewd humor there, or humor about making light of violence in video games. Ryan Davis's famous when talking about head and neck stabbing in one of the Assassin's Creed games, which ended up getting mentioned in an article in, I believe, a print newspaper or magazine, discussed where Giant Bomb came up, and in turn got immortalized in the Found Me the Bomb song by Buckner and Garcia. So, and this is without getting into stuff like Dan Reichert's kind of heel persona that he took on more openly when he was at Giant Bomb, and related to all of his various, let's just call them pop cultural and life in general blind spots. Everything from particular works of media to culinary stuff, let's just say. If you I'll just put it this way. John Scalzi has bad takes on food. John, particularly with the word burrito, whenever the word burrito comes up, John Scalzi has picked spectacularly terrible takes on food. Dan Reichert's takes on food blow them all away. I mean, he has a few points. I'm pretty sure that Reichert has the good sense to not say, "Oh yeah, I put ketchup on a bratwurst," but that's not like regular ketchup, not like currywurst ketchup on a bratwurst. But that's not saying much. In any case, with all that in mind, with the content guidelines came down, it ultimately led basically to the Giant Bomb staff as they were as of Monday, April 28th, more or less departing the D. Departing. So Giant Bomb effectively is also gone. And what makes this notable is to put a long, like, I'm not going to say make a long story short because we're already 60 minutes in and I haven't gotten to like the core point of this is a lot of these sites like Polygon, like Waypoint, and before that GameSpot, and the video game magazines like Next Gen and so forth that I've discussed have served in the past as mechanisms and avenues for new writers, new voices to be cultivated by experienced editors to help refine their writing, help them find their voice in writing, or for that matter, in podcast, in video, to help them find that thing they need to help them express themselves in whatever the medium in question is. And in the process, give these new voices a chance to ultimately go into the spotlight and grow audiences on their own. Again, I bring up Austin Walker, I bring up Patrick Klepek, people who went through various, like Austin Walker, relatively new talent, new to games journalism when he came to Giant Bomb. Patrick Klepek had a significant degree of experience before he came over. Across various websites and that sort of thing, Kotaku, so forth and so on. And, well, Giant Bomb was like, it served as a good place to cultivate all these people. And not only that, but honestly, as people left, as ultimately Alex and the East Coast team, Alex and Vinny and Vinny left, Brad left, and went to start Nextlander, or before that when Patrick left, or when Austin left, whenever there was a gap, they brought someone in and gave that person a chance to be in the spot, to let their voice be heard, and gave those writers and critics and journalists a chance to get known by audiences. And I bring all this up because one of the things I've noticed as going through this whole thing, and also for that matter, seeing in the YouTuber circle with things like with what happened with Change the Channel and that sort of thing, with the disintegration of Channel Awesome due to misconduct and mismanagement by the people who are running that, is having good places for people to express themselves creatively helps build the audience so that if you get laid off and you go stand on your own, you can theoretically go somewhere else. So when, for example, once again, go back to Waypoint and Vice, what we got out of it, what happened when Waypoint ultimately kicked the bucket, is what came out of it was we got Remap and we got Aftermath. When things went to crap at Geo Media, yes, Kotaku is still there, but we also got coming out of it, like when Deadspin died, we got 404 Media. But all of those are existing with writers who have built existing fan bases from and existing following audiences from these sites. And fan bases is both the right word and the wrong word, but we'll stick with it. So from those sites, and brought them, and they could take those and start their own thing. The problem being, though, is when you get a bunch of these starting up at once, you run into a situation of, not to put too fine a point on it, one, audience's money gets spread thin. This is especially the case now with, and as of recording, I mean, honestly, even when this goes live, the nonsense with Trump's tariffs and how they have been changing from day to day, from week to week, day to day, or some cases even hour to hour. Because of how rapidly that's been changing, it means that for these creators, when they go to try and start the new thing, if they do decide to go start the new thing, independent from their former parent, that so cruelly abandoned them, that resources that can be provided to them is much slimmer. Like, I would love to have the financial resources available to support all of these things, to support Nextlander and Remap and Rascal and Aftermath and 404 Media and all of the other things. But I don't have that much money. That's my, like, not every, and certainly some people maybe have to make the harsh decision of, do I just back Patreon? Do I just back Nextlander? Do I just back Rascal? Do I just back Remap? Well, part of the reason, why I don't generally do Patreon exclusive stuff on my channel is, honestly, I know that perhaps from a fan base standpoint in the long run, having paywalled stuff, having stuff that is literally paywalled, reviews or videos or that sort of thing, would probably financially help me more in the long term. But having the thing go public eventually does more for the audience than it does, or helps people see what I'm doing and decide if they like it or not, rather than take behind a paywall where perhaps nobody sees it, or where the audience has to make the tough decision of, yes, Alex Count Zero puts out 7 things a week of podcasts and videos and blog posts and all this, that, and the other thing, and he's like putting a lot of work out in all of this, but on the other hand, like, I have all of these other things too, and I don't want to, like, I know I am smaller in a lot of respects than those other entities, both in terms of audience and staff and that sort of thing. But so I don't want to put my viewer in a situation where they go, I have to choose between I back me or I back someone else who also I back in that same way. So with that, yeah. But this all comes to, okay, what happens to new voices in game journalism? How do they develop? There are certainly strong forces in game criticism, games media on YouTube. There is, for example, people make games who not only gets into um, how the games are made, but also gets into like serious acts of game journalism, such as discussion of, for example, abuses in the game outsourcing, game development, satellite studio outsourcing process, where you'll have companies saying, "Oh, our studios, our first party internal studios, don't do crunch, but are then are then satellite studios or contractor studios. We are not adequately enforcing our own policies or following up on our own policies on them, and those studios are engaging in crunch, are engaging in active abuse of employees, and in ways which here in the United States would act, or in Europe would act, or Canada, let's be real, like in North America or Europe would actively be illegal. Not even Japan would probably actively be illegal. So there's that, and that got coverage from People Make Games. That was original journalism on their part, but not everyone's in a position to do that, and or perhaps they're, or honestly, like People Make Games has, I believe, enough of a staff and at least enough of income where they can, when they wrote this story and put it together, they could theoretically run it past a lawyer before they went up with it, so that if they got hit with legal action, again, remember I was talking about the company that bought Polygon, suing a news entity that was covering their labor practices, and which described them allegedly as a sweatshop level treatment of their writers. Um, Having a lawyer is what you need when you're writing that news story, so that when you do write it, you can have a degree of confidence that, okay, I am telling the truth about this situation, and legally my butt is covered if they do come at me for this. And in terms of having the lawyer to fight for you, to make sure that you are that when they come at you, you have somebody to properly represent you and get you the win, after once again making sure that you're covered on that regard. There's that. And so they're doing that. There's good game criticism coming out. You have H Bomber Guy, you have New Frame Plus, getting into game animation. There are series about the animation of the Final Fantasy games. Excellent. It's just, though, again, the situation becomes like, particularly since ad revenue stuff is going down, like, if I was still monetized on YouTube, if I hadn't gotten demonetized along with a bunch of other people, lots of other people, after the whole situation with the with crap, Jake. Once again, name falling on my head because I try not to think about this person except for when I have to. Logan Paul, right? Logan and Jake Paul. Ever since crap with Logan and Jake Paul, like with Logan Paul going to the suicide forest and filming himself with a corpse, kind of in a mocking way. Ever since all of that, and YouTube demonetized a lot of people, my channel was demonetized, among a lot of others. And even the people who are still monetized aren't really making that much money. Patreon is where the money is these days, or having a sponsorship. If I had a sponsorship deal with, like, you're not seeing me doing a plug for Raid Shadow Legends. I have considered at a few points doing a plug for like Gamefly or that sort of thing. I might do a couple, like, I just by having an affiliate thing set up, but But yeah, like the money in the advertising themselves is not really what it was in the past. And with Patreon and that sort of thing, there is more money to be made there, but again, as I mentioned earlier, everyone's getting spread thin, which means it's trickier for a newcomer to build up an audience. And the thing that you really want if you're a newcomer is you want editorial guidance. And this gets back to the root of this thing, what kicked this all off in the first place. Losing Polygon, losing Giant Bomb. Before that, having lost One Up, having God knows what this is going to mean for GameSpot. Or having lost Vice, Waypoint Vice. Like, you're in the process, we're losing places for new and up and coming writers to get that editorial guidance. I mean, there are freelance work that's still out there. One of the things that came out of this is, like, when it came to the wellspring of support that came for these writers who were lost their jobs, was sites like Anime Herald and Anime Feminist and say, hey, we can't hire new people right now, but please pitch to us. And that helps. But also that puts a situation where you now have, once again, long-established veterans who are up against rookies. And the question being is, if somebody with, say, the experience, the insight, the audience of someone like Austin Walker, for example, not that Austin Walker was writing Polygon, but let's say someone from their staff who works at a similar level pitches something to Anime Herald, and a relative rookie comes in. You have on the one hand, the experienced writer, editorially, you don't have to get as hands-on with them. It's not going to be as much work for you relatively to work with this experienced writer. Like, you may need to provide some feedback and guidance and that sort of thing in terms of how it works with your site and that sort of thing. Hey, from like moderate to minor level things, like, oh, hey, with how our CMS works and our site backend works, these paragraphs are actually too long. Or we do try to have, we'd like to have a couple more images in here. Do you have anything in mind? That sort of thing. On the other hand, with the rookie though, while you say, oh, the with less time needed to assist the experienced writer, there's more time for the spend with the rookie. But the problem is, financially, they get paid the same, relatively speaking. So you have the resources for one. Why are you? All things being equal regarding the how exciting the pitches are, why not go for the veteran? That sort of, and then that's where the problem comes in. And again, all of this is happening at a time where I'm doing these long pauses, not because I can't think of what to say, not because I'm running out of things to say, but in a lot of respects, it's mentally exhausting, where we are in a time where all of these tariff nonsense and all this crap coming out of the Trump administration further saps people, like, sapping people's energy. Like, the actions of Valnet firing every member of the union while you're in the middle of union negotiations, that's kind of textbook union busting. But the National Labor Review Board, which is who you'd go to with your complaint and would evaluate it and would come forward with punitive actions to be done against Valnet, given the circumstances. They are currently captured by, currently under the control of the Trump administration and in the process of being gutted. So there's no real guarantee that any action would be taken to get these people their jobs back, to make sure that their severance, that they get a severance, that if they don't get their job back, that the punitive financial damages are paid out to them, to make sure that they have money to pay mortgages, rent, power, internet bills, that sort of thing. In conclusion, or I should say, TL didn't listen, too long didn't listen, didn't watch. This all sucks. Real bad. I wished we lived in a situation, I wished we were in a situation where I could feel more financially confident that financially everybody involved would land on their feet, that there would be enough of a financial audience to tell Valnet and Polygon to go take a walk off a short pier and follow these writers to their new homes, and let them still be able to financially contribute to other sources, other sites as well, like, again, Rascal, Aftermath, and so on. But we're running into a situation now where this is happening so much that there's no longer that confidence of, oh, everyone, like, these guys are good at what they do. They can go start their own thing and they'll all land on their feet and it'll be fine. And they can remind Valnet that the best revenge is living well, and they can thrive while Polygon, separated from the writers that made it great, or Giant Bomb, after they go off and start their own thing, don't even know what to call it. The Lucha Herd, in reference to Lucha Deer, when they go start that, everyone follows them, or they follow over to Firescape, and in response, the Giant Bomb brand degrades, but fandom comes to realize that they killed the golden goose. But meanwhile, one of those eggs hatched, went somewhere else, and is laying eggs just fine. I can't be confident with the situations being as they are, the economy being as it is, that will happen. Because we've ended up in a situation where, not because of a global pandemic this time, but because of just stupid financial crap carried out by an orange baby in elected office, is throwing temper tantrums, that the U.S. economy, possibly also for that matter the global economy, is getting undercut at the knees and preventing the opportunity for small businesses to be able to properly start up. So, normally what YouTube wants you to do for a thing, wants you to do in your videos, and everyone recommends you do, is to do a call to action. So here's mine. My call to action after this almost half-hour semi-ramble, semi-rant is this: support independent media where you can. And when it comes to media sites like no longer Polygon, but like whatever form they be. Like, for example, Gematsu or Nintendo Life. For those sites, or even Eurogamer to an extent, support sites where you see people cultivating new writers. Where you can feel that there are people there who are working to build and promote and help new writers grow. And giving new writers a chance to develop their voice and to have their work put into print and a chance to build their audiences. Because we need all of those. We need those independent sites to be able to grow to the point where they can also take pitches from other writers, where they can bring new writers on board and promote them and help them grow. And those existing places to cultivate those new writers need to stick around. And if any of these places get grabbed up and gobbled up by one of these content farm monsters, these extruded content machine factories, just look to where those writers go from there. Keep track of the memories from the old articles from that site, our back catalog. But those sites don't need your financial support. And that's where I'm at on that. I realize that this video will not go up in the most timely manner when this happened. But I think it is important for stuff like this to not just go. I mean, like, going for the immediate clicks is good. From a YouTube business standpoint, it's great for my finances and for my traffic to go, hey, I struck with when it's immediate and topical and everyone's searching for it, got a whole bunch of views. But it's important to keep this kind of thing in the spotlight and not just talk about it when it's immediately actively going on. And remember that this is happening, that it's happening. Catch you next time. Next time, I will try to do something lighter, fluffier, and a more fun review. We'll get to that.
Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed the show, please like and subscribe. And also consider backing my Patreon. Patreon backers get episodes up to 1 week early of this show and any future Let's Plays. Also, please consider backing my Ko-fi. Toss me a few bucks also helps support the show, and it's not a monthly obligation or anything like that.